Capaccio has been the Bills beat reporter for WGR Sports Radio. He has covered the team for 13 years. He's a sideline reporter as well, and he joins us on the program. Sal, thanks for getting up and joining us. Give me a sense of what the feeling was in Buffalo leading up to this game, the confidence level you think that the Bills and fan base had.
First of all, it's a pleasure and honor to join you, Dan. Thanks for having me. I would say it was cautiously optimistic because we've seen the Bills bow out to the Kansas City Chiefs a couple of times over the last 3 years in the playoffs, but those games were in Kansas City. Now you get a chance to have what appeared to be more of a wounded kind of Kansas City team, meaning not the same Chiefs offense. They've seemed more vulnerable, and you had them here in your house, right, where it's super loud. It's going to make it a tougher environment. So I think fans were cautiously optimistic, feeling good about that, but also knowing they were depleted on defense with all the injuries. And if you can just kind of hold on for 60 minutes and make a few plays, you're going to the AFC Championship game. I think that was the feeling going in.
Do you think any changes are made?
Sure, there's always changes.
I mean,
right?
big changes?
You know, this is a aging roster, but it's still got some good young talent, obviously, and Josh Allen is just into the prime of his career right now. So they're going to contend for a while, but you have to think about guys like Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde and, what their future lies, and Von Miller. And he's got a big contract, but, coming off the injury, he wasn't that effective this particular season. But if you're talking about front office coaching changes, there's a segment of fans who definitely would tell you, and we take calls like this all the time on my radio show, Dan, that say like, hey, Sean McDermott has been great as a culture changer, but maybe they've hit their ceiling. Maybe they can't go any farther with him. But I'll be honest with you. I don't see it from my perspective that ownership would do something like that. They love what they have in Sean McDermott and Brandon Beane, what they built here. They're contenders every year. They want a great program. They have synergy. And the owners, the Terry and Kim Pagula, also own the hockey team in town, which isn't performing very well. And they're trying to put resources into that to try and, I don't think they want to have both those things happening, but you never know. Nothing surprises me in this business.
What do you think the level of pain is today, if you were going to describe it to the rest of the country?
It's up there. If it's a 1 through 10, it's close to a 10. I mean, listen, it was a little anticlimactic at the end. It wasn't like losing with 13 seconds left when you thought you had it and were going to the AFC Championship at home a couple of years ago. But still, I mean, I think more than anything, Dan, this is a big picture thing for this city. Other than the AFL years in the 1960s and the lacrosse team, which is in town, I want to give them respect. We've never won a championship here with the Buffalo Bills, a Super Bowl or a Stanley Cup with the Buffalo Sabres. And we've been down that road many times and very close. And I think this is just another one of those long lists of things that have happened in the city. I grew up here. I was here during the Super Bowl years. And now I cover this team professionally. And it hurts. It hurts badly this morning because, again, I think there's a sense of if you weren't going to beat the Chiefs this year, if you weren't going to do it now, will you ever be able to do it?
Well, that's what I kept coming back to, that there's no other player in modern day football that I feel more confident in than Patrick Mahomes. So even when the team is not as good, there's still that confidence level. Maybe we certainly had that with Brady. We had that probably with Joe Montana. Game on the line, you go, yeah, somehow. And I still don't have that yet with Josh Allen, where you go, you know what? And I thought he played pretty well. I didn't understand the game plan in the final in the fourth quarter. They started to throw the ball where I thought they could have kept running all night and rushed for over 200 yards. So did McDermott talk about they tried to change things up there in the fourth quarter?
No, I think what happened, though, was if you watch, the game, the first half, the Bills were dominating the line of scrimmage. They were running for over 5 yards a carry. They were controlling the game with the run game. Chiefs made a nice adjustment in the second half. They went from 2 high to 1 high. They put a guy in the box. They were making sure the Bills couldn't run the ball. They were really kind of forcing the Bills' weapons to beat them on the outside. And the Bills couldn't win. And when they did win, they had a couple drop passes, right? I mean, they took a couple shots down the field, Stephon Diggs, Trent Sherfield. So I don't think it was some major game plan shift. I think the Chiefs did a good job of taking away the run game, But on that note, though, I think the game plan was, the Bills came into this game so depleted on defense, Dan, that I think the Bills said, look, if we can control the game on the ground and keep Patrick Mahomes off the field and have long drives, and they did that, 7-minute drives, 8-minute drives. Unfortunately, though, the first one ends in a field goal, not a touchdown. That hurts you. Then you go 3 and out in another series later. That hurts you. And really, at the end of the day, you couldn't stop the Chiefs, and they were just scoring every time, which is why they went for the fake field goal. I'm sorry, the fake punt. And McDermott said, look, we just weren't stopping them. And then as far as Josh Allen's concerned, I thought he played one heck of a game again. This guy's been so good in the playoffs. I was doing the numbers this morning, Dan. It's amazing to think he's started 10 playoff games this career. He's 5-5. And of course, the record is the record. When you count passing, rushing, and even one reception he had for a touchdown a few years ago, 330 yards a game. He's accounted for 27 touchdowns and only 4 interceptions. I mean, his numbers are remarkable. It's incredible that he has not been to a Super Bowl yet. And I think this is what we do, right? We all know it. We grew up in Dan Marino and Jim Kelly, and this is what we do. It's the quarterback. Josh Allen, if anybody thinks that he is some sort of issue why the Bills haven't gotten this far to where they need to go, then they haven't watched, because this is the only reason this guy, he's carrying this team on his back like he kind of did last night.
The weather is tolerable when you have football, but now that you don't have football, does it get colder, Sal?
It gets colder, especially when you have a hockey team that currently has the longest NHL playoff drought going on. And normally we can turn our attention there, right? I mean, normally it's like, okay, well, football season, it's over. It kind of stinks. We got our Sabres, but that hasn't been the case for 11, 12 years now in the playoffs, and we have some nice things to do here in the winter in Buffalo. We got college basketball around. We got some skiing and sledding and things like that. But I would say for sure, our attention here in Buffalo now turns to the offseason. The Bills really kind of run the show here, and the Sabres do too when they're good. But yeah, I'd say so. I always say that same thing, Dan. I'm like, the worst months really are like late January and into February. So the longer the Bills can go on, that helps all of our mental health and the way we feel about things.
Thank you, Sal. We appreciate you joining us.
Anytime, man. Thank you.
That's Sal Capaccio. He is the Bills beat reporter, sideline reporter for WGR Sports Radio. He's been doing that, covering the Bills for 13 years.